Good evening, Council. Welcome to our regular Council meeting for Wednesday, October the 11th. Welcome to those watching on live stream and those here in the audience today. We appreciate you being here. I want to open with extending our thoughts and prayers to the members of our community that were impacted and the innocent lives that were lost by the events in the Middle East this past weekend. We are working with Rabbi Kaplan to host a prayer vigil here at Town Hall this coming Monday at 6:30 p.m. Please keep an eye on social media for more information once all the event details have been finalized. I would also like to acknowledge that October the 11th, 1 year ago today, was the passing of Morgan and Devon, our two South Simcoe police officers that were lost in the line of duty. Lights at Innisfil Beach Park will be blue the entire month of October. And I'd like to ask Council and those here in attendance to please stand and pause for a moment's silence. Thank you very much, everyone. Also to let you know that our South Simcoe police officers will be pausing at 8:45 this evening with radio silence for 1 minute in honor of Devon and Morgan. Now I'd like to ask Councillor Waters for the land acknowledgement, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The town acknowledges that the town of Innisfil is situated on treaty lands that is steeped in Indigenous history. The town also acknowledges that this land is the traditional territories of the first peoples of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe peoples of Beaujolais First Nation, the Chippewas of Rama First Nation, and the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, and we thank them for their generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home of many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and the culture and the commitment to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect for all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. I should have noted right off the top that this meeting is live streamed and audio and video recorded on the Town of Innisfil's YouTube channel and shall form part of the record, which will be retained in accordance with the town's retention bylaw. And ask anyone who's here, if you have your cell phone with you, if you could please put it on silent or vibrate so it won't interrupt our proceedings. Next item on the agenda is our open forum, and we did have no one sign up for open forum today, so we'll move right on then to the approval of the agenda. So a mover and a seconder, please, to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Drodge and seconded by Councillor Richardson. All those in favor? That is carried. Next, I'll ask if there's any disclosures of interest, conflict of interest of any member of council. Seeing none, if one becomes apparent to you through our discussions, let us know at that time. And next, we'll go to item 5, presentations and petitions. We have none, so item 6 is delegations. And our first delegation this evening is from Len Giglio. Len is the chief, I'm trying to think now, it's optimist, chief optimist.
And CEO.
Chief Optimist and CEO of Tempo Flexible Packaging. Thank you so much for being here. Whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
Thank you. All right, we'll get this on the screen. Thank you very much for having me. Mayor Dolan, Deputy Mayor, councillors, I apologize if I'm not perfectly formal in the way this works because it's my first time here. Make sure we get all the IT working. So you can call me Len. I'm from Tempo Flexible Packaging. Just making sure the, okay, perfect. I think we're working. Okay. For those of you who don't know, Tempo is located at 2237 Industrial Park Road. We are part of Innisfil Heights. And we are currently a growing, thriving business that's doing our best to navigate during these fun times. Some people keep saying unprecedented times. I don't want to say that anymore. Next slide, please. Perfect. So there is a family legacy. It is a family-run business, and we take a lot of pride in that. Here's a picture of myself and my older sister, Leanne, who is the COO. We have another sister who's also a shareholder in the business, but is not part of the day-to-day. She is also in the public sector, and she's a smart one. And together, the three of us are trying to change the face of this business and how it's run. Next slide, please. So at Tempo, we've kind of rethinked about the way we think we can be part of this community and how we're going to run a company. Myself, as a millennial, I think we look at the world slightly differently. It's not just all numbers and the bottom line. I think we're trying to make something special here in Innisfil, and I think as one of the largest employers in Innisfil, we have an opportunity to have an impact and a positive one at that. So I'm just going to read our purpose briefly, because this is what we expect everybody at Tempo to wake up every morning and come to work in mind. To rethink flexible packaging in a sustainable manner, we respect our heritage, family values, and commitment to forward thinking. Working together, we have a positive impact on our team, partners, and community. And we take this with the utmost sincerity. This is not meant to be a poster in a boardroom. This is meant to be a mantra that we all say to each other every day. Next slide, please. So brief timeline. So Tempo was founded in 1970. Our relationship with Innisfil started in 1984. We moved from Mississauga, and we actually have employees that moved from Mississauga in 1984 to Innisfil with us. And I actually walked by a gentleman today who's been with us for 41 years. And that's the type of relationship we have with our employees, very long-term. And we don't think in terms of quarters. We think in terms of decades. And I think that's what multi-generational family businesses have an opportunity to do. Throughout the years, we've done a lot of things at Tempo. We've retrofitted the building. It was around 50,000 square feet when we started in 1984. Today, we're sitting at about 100,000 square feet with this another 10,000 square feet planned. Next slide, please. So some pretty exciting stuff has been happening in the past couple of years. So when Leanne and I have taken over full ownership with our opportunities, we decided we were going to make almost a $15 million investment into Tempo and in our facility in Innisfil. And we got some attention as a result. I mean, we've had a lot of key politicians come and recognize us. We've had support from the provincial government, as well as, next slide please, and the federal government. City Council has visited us over the past couple of years, and I know Mayor Dolan, you've had the opportunity to come see us during some of these wonderful opportunities. And I think it's exciting because we want to, not to say that we're putting Innisfil on the map, but we want to shine a light on this community because we think it's an integral part of our success story. We are part of this community. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go through every single thing that we do, but I think the most important thing is our people. So regardless of the cool equipment we buy or how big of an expansion we make, Tempo has people at its core. And the ask that I'm bringing to you today is really about people. I have an opportunity to represent 185 people today, 185 families, and behind them is probably another 1,000 people that live in their homes. And it's greatly impacting and affecting all of us at Tempo. Since 2023, we've had over 50 hires. Most of our employees actually reside in Innisfil. And Tempo takes pride in being the highest percentage of female employees in the manufacturing sector in Simcoe County. Next, please. We do lots in the community. We have pictures from the 80s sponsoring baseball teams in Innisfil and everything in between that and what we do today. Again, we think this is an important part of being a good corporate citizen. I'm not going to go into all the details there. Let's get into why I'm actually here today. So we've been trying to expand our building, and I think part of our expansion is we have an opportunity to grow our business. We are an essential service. We're part of the food packaging supply chain. And during the pandemic, we were very busy. No one got a day off. And as a manufacturer, we weren't work from home. We must be in the building working together. We do things with our hands. We realized that we had an opportunity to maybe restructure some of the internal departments to have a better flow, to improve efficiencies, to be competitive in what is now a global marketplace. And I think, being my personal first expansion project and knew this whole thing, I was advised it should be relatively simple. We're adding 10,000 square feet of building on top of asphalt. So it's really not supposed to be a big deal for a 100,000 square foot facility that's been there for almost 40 years. Next slide, please. However, unfortunately, things did not go as smooth as initially planned. I think we really appreciate that. The people at the town that we've been working with have tried their best to work with us. We definitely see that there was a sincere intention to help Tempo get to where it needed to help us honor our commitments that we've made with the provincial and federal governments by expanding, hiring people, and growing our business in this community. Unfortunately, I think some nuance and some interpretations of how things should be done and can be done are just slightly getting in the way. So our project's been on hold for about a year after investments of millions of dollars, and it's been at a standstill. And the standstill has been a very expensive one. Next slide, please. So I don't want to go line by line, and this is not even a portion of it. This is just some of the bills we've incurred in the past 10 months by stalling projects and trying to get things moving. Next, please. A small example could be, a glass staircase was $15,000 when this project started, and now it's $30,000. We're all aware of inflation, we're all aware of supply chain issues, and we're all aware of Tempo's in a position where we can't say no. We're halfway through the project, so if suppliers want to kind of increase prices, whether that's an actual increase or maybe a opportunity to increase their margin, it's irrelevant, right? These are costs that we are incurring. Next slide, please. So the issue, with my understanding, and I'm being supported by a team of experts, legal experts, engineering experts. By no means am I saying these are my words or my drawings. I'll make it very clear. So I'll do my best to answer whatever questions may come at the end of this presentation, but I may have to come back to more information if I'm not able to answer. But we have an infrastructure problem in Innisfil Heights, and essentially we're trying to get stormwater from the west side to the east side of the rail spur that sits in the area that we are. So this picture that's up right now, the top of the picture would be north, bottom would be south, left would be west, right would be east. You can't really see Tempo in this picture, but we're showing you that there is some infrastructure around Thomas Street that is able to get water around the rail spur, but myself and about 5 of my neighbors below don't have that opportunity. Next, please. So there's no culverts, there's no real infrastructure. It looks like there was intended infrastructure, but between the 60s and 70s when this rail spur was put in and today, it doesn't look like we have an apparent outlet for water. Next, please. Which is creating a huge problem. In this picture, you can see there's like a forested area in the southeast corner of my neighbor, just north of our property line. And it's just water pooling up, a drastic amount of water that's pooling up. And, we had some pretty heavy rainfall this summer. I took the opportunity myself to take videos. Again, I'm not going to present it tonight due to time, but I can share more with people if they'd like to see. But there's a significant amount of water that's pooling up because there's no outlet for water to get from the west side to the east side of this rail spur. Next, please. This is the opposite side of us, the rail spur, so that culvert and drainage on Thomas Street that goes east of the rail spur has an outlet. And you can see there's like 3 feet of water in this ditch. So there's a lot of water coming, and the outlet that's the proper outlet to go works, except we don't have the infrastructure on our side. Next slide, please. Again, an abundance of water. Next slide, please. What's exacerbating this issue is MTO, as you see at Innisfil Beach Road, they're doing a lot of work to the Highway 400, and it looks like they're improving the water getting from the west side of the 400 to the east side of the 400, and then it's nobody's problem anymore. That problem seems to be my problem for some reason, and I can't totally understand why it is. But we've improved infrastructure to get water from west to east of the 400, and then it seems to land on my lap today as somebody who's trying to improve and develop his business, and I'm just trying to get some clarification as to why we feel that this is 100% the onus of our company. Next, please. Again, just showing that there is work that's being done, but it's only being done to a certain degree, and then it's an afterthought. Not my problem is what we're looking at this like, and we're saying it is somebody's problem. It's all of our problems. We're trying to build this industrial park. Next slide, please. Again, you can see the Highway 400 is a lot higher than us, so I don't think you need to be an engineer to understand how that water will flow. And if you've been to the 400 market and understand their driveway, it's just like ours. Everything is heading eastern and southerly. Next slide, please. Next, please. So here's kind of a conundrum that I'm asking for some clarification and maybe some support. So again, with nothing but the best intentions, we've come up with different strategies of getting water west to east. But really the best outlet would be where you saw that image of that pooling water that's coming from Thomas Street turning eastward. That is the best outlet with the existing infrastructure to get water to. And that's exactly where this image is showing you. This red circle is showing kind of where all these properties come together and where the water's naturally going right now. Right now, it's pooling on the left side of the circle, which is my neighbor's property. And the issue is this rail spur that's been there for quite some time, right where you see that arrow's pointing in the middle of the circle, this is an inactive piece of land. So it's not owned by the town of Innisfil. It's not owned really by anybody. I believe it's Crown land. And it would be really difficult for us to try to build this infrastructure on our own as a private corporation, as we have no easements, we have no opportunities to make sure that anything is going to get done properly. And again, this is not the issue of the present council, but this is years of maybe improper organization and neglect to a business park that desperately needs some infrastructure. Next slide, please. So essentially what I'm proposing is we remove from our current site plan this obligation and scope of work to figure out how this water is going to work. It seems like there may be a master drainage plan or something that needs to be done. It involves about 5 different landowners, and it just does not seem appropriate, fair, use whatever word you like, to just put it on this one business owner that's at the very bottom of this business park where the water's ending up. And even if Temple were to take water and get it from one side of our rail spur to the other side of our property, that does not solve the problem. The problem is, having an impact on the entire business park. And my neighbor to the north, who just bought that piece of land for quite some money, is probably going to intend on developing themselves, and I don't think they're going to be able to. So any development in that area is not going to work because we have a major infrastructure problem to this whole business park area, or at least my immediate part of Innisfil Heights. So my request is a couple things. A, we decided to put 10,000 feet on top of asphalt. We have not impacted in any way the way water flows on our property or how it impacts anything. We've already started the process. We've received some conditional permits, and we're very thankful at the time for that. But we're being handcuffed at the moment. So our ask is, in the next 15 days, we need to get moving again, because the time is just costing us a fortune, and it's causing this really big undue hardship. I want to make it very clear. What Tempo's suggesting is we want to keep things moving and figure out a solution that works for everybody. we are not absolving ourselves from anything. And I think being part of Innisfil for 40 years, and this is the first time you've had to see anybody from Tempo here, I think is a very good track record to say we've been a very quiet partner that's been growing in this community, and we have nothing but good intentions to keep growing this community. All we're asking is, while we try to sort this out, because I think the problem's a lot bigger than we intended at the beginning, that you allow us to keep our plans of growth so that we can continue to be a pillar of this community, continue to add people to our team, and continue to make true on the promises we made to both the provincial and federal governments. So that really is the request that I'm bringing today. I don't know exactly who has the authority to help us. And I'm looking around this room because I've spoken to quite a few people in this room, but I think we need to figure out what we can do here. We know there's something. We know there's a better solution than having everything on hold and saying this is Tempo's obligation. So I've come here to ask that question. I know I'm not going to get an answer in 10 seconds, but that's the reality of where I'm living today. And I appreciate your time. And if you have some questions, I'll do my best to answer them as accurately as I can.
Thank you very much for the delegation, Len. Questions or comments from members of council? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Lynn, for bringing this to us. I know firsthand how much of an impact Tempo has had on Innisfil, and I appreciate all your efforts. There was a question that came to mind during your presentation. You stated that the rail line is inert and it resides on Crown land. Is this correct?
Well, I believe our neighbor, Comet Chemical, still uses it from time to time, but there's a portion between us and Comet Chemical. I believe it's like 20 by 40 feet. It's like a tiny square that is not owned by anybody right now. So there's nothing we can do about it. So Tempo doesn't want to own it. It's not part of our property. Maybe Comet wants to own it. Maybe my neighbor to the north, maybe the town of Innisfil should own it. But any work that is to be done on that piece of property, I have zero control over, and it could take years and years, and I don't think that's a path that would make any sense.
There we go. The reason I ask is because there is no catch basin, there's no easement, there is no way for the water to flow. Is it potentially able to be used as a connecting point between the two to drain the excess water from the west side of the rail to the east side? If you could do that, that would actually solve quite a number of issues, would it not?
I believe that's the suggestion. So I think our experts and I think the town's experts are saying we want to get water from west to east. I think there's going to need to be a hole put underneath the spur to put a culvert so we can allow that to happen. I think the issue is, where should that be that impacts the entire area, and whose responsibility really is this? We're saying that we don't think this is 100% our responsibility. We understand we're the ones today that are coming to try to do an expansion, but we're saying we think there's a lot more here than just Tempo, and there's a lot of people that are going to benefit than just Tempo. So we're trying to figure out, maybe we need to look at this a little deeper. Maybe we should take this out of the scope of our current site plan and really figure out what we got to do. And I think we still may have a part in it. I'm just saying I want to decouple the current expansion we're trying to do with this stormwater project, because the timeline may be, it's out of everybody's hands. There's a piece of property there that nobody knows who owns it. So in order to sort this whole thing out, it's going to take some time.
Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Worship. I'm kind of curious, where is the water coming from? Is it mostly, is it property that is coming off your own property? Or, as you said, is the drainage coming onto your property from surrounding properties, and it just doesn't have a place to go?
It's both. So there's water that's naturally landing on our property.
Right.
But the water, like even from that culvert that you see, it's coming from the 400. So we are the furthest southern point where the main line and the spur connects. So we are the neighbor of the 400 market, and all the water from the properties above us, north of us, is running southeast. So all these properties are sending their water towards us, and it's kind of all pooling on kind of the property line between myself and my neighbor to the north. And we're looking at this saying, again, this picture of the MTO made some modifications. They've made the problem even worse, but with no outlet. So they didn't have an obligation to have an outlet, but for some reason, we now have this obligation to create this outlet for everybody. We're just saying, maybe this doesn't make sense, and we should revisit this as a community.
And so the response from the town is put a stop work order until this is resolved? Is that our solution?
From my understanding, it's a stop work order because we were anxious to get the conditional work done. But we're at a point where they don't feel comfortable that we should keep moving forward until this site plan agreement with some of these obligations are met. And I didn't want to sign a site plan agreement that I didn't believe in. I didn't want to lie to anybody. We said this doesn't make sense, and we've been on hold for a year trying to investigate, trying to understand, spending hours and hours with legal teams, finding pins, and we're now at this point today.
Thank you.
Councillor Ices.
Through your worship, thank you for your presentation, Len. I'm wondering if how much more time do you think you need to complete your project?
Not a lot of time. We're expecting within 2 months our project would be complete. I could have people making office spaces for another 20 people.
So the majority of the project is?
A substantial amount of the project is done. Fortunately, it's enclosed at the moment, so it will allow us to work during this time of year. Right now, we wouldn't have to be waiting till spring. However, to speak truthfully, in order to complete all site works, obviously paving and all that stuff, that would have to be done in the warmer months in the spring.
Anyone else? Seeing no other hands. Director Lee, did you have any comments at this time?
No, Mayor Dolan, I don't, unless council has specific questions. We have been working through a process with Len and his team in terms of trying to find stormwater solutions. I think the only other comment I would make would be specific to the fact that staff are currently working on a report on Innisfil Heights, and the broader drainage issue is one of those areas where we will be looking at other solutions. And it's currently our expectation that we'll be bringing that report to the October 25th meeting.
Thank you. Can I ask, would a municipal drain be an option in this area where all benefiting landowners were given, were charged for any works if there was a municipal drain put in the area?
So, Mayor Dolan, I think what we're suggesting through the Innisfil Heights project, and Mr. Giglio sort of spoke to it, is, you know, obviously the park has developed over a number of decades, not through a plan of subdivision process, and typically through that process there would have been a broader drainage review of how drainage should work. A number of the properties are developed at this point in time, so one of the staff suggestions through the Innisfil Heights project that we're going to bring forward is that there should be a comprehensive drainage stormwater review of the entire development and how it should work, and then what would be the requirements, whether that's a municipal drain or other culverts. How should drainage be considered in the future? What easements would be required by the town? So that would be a project that would be recommended.
And one more, and then I'll go to other people who have their hands up. So the holdup is there other agencies involved in this, or is it simply, is the Conservation Authority involved, is the MECP involved, or is it simply Innisfil?
So the stormwater management works do require an environmental compliance approval through the MECP. That application, I believe it was in Mr. Giglio's slides, was submitted to the MECP. Notice was provided by the MECP that they were going to provide approval. that was for the solution that would have drainage going under the rail spur within the Tempo lands. And as Mr. Giglio has indicated, that's not the solution that they would like the MECP to approve. And so that's why they have not moved forward to sign the site plan agreement.
Understood. Thank you, Director. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, so I just need a bit of a clarification here. I'm just trying to wrap this and visualize this in my mind. They're building, Len stated that they're building on tarmac. So they're not adding grading, they're not dewatering, they're not changing the elevation. They're simply taking an existing piece of property that has already been graded, paved, and building upon that. Am I correct in that assumption? Right.
That's accurate.
So that being the case, is it, if we were to give him the approval to move forward, technically it would not have a negative impact on the existing issue with the water flow. Is that correct?
Director Lee.
Through you, Mayor Dolan, to the Deputy Mayor, through the site plan review process, it was determined that some of the stormwater that discharges through this property and the development of the site over time didn't necessarily have all of the stormwater review that should have happened historically. And I think that's where Mr. Giglio was speaking to, some of that oversight historically. So when this site plan application was received and the addition was being proposed, stormwater was required to be reviewed in accordance with the town's engineering standards. And so through that process, it was determined that the current controls on site don't meet the provincial requirements and would be required to be upgraded to compensate for the addition that has been proposed.
Follow-up?
Okay, so it has to meet the new standards. Now the question again, I'm going to add, and I apologize if I'm being redundant, as the standards are separate from the initial, or the bill that's currently being put forth, that is technically a separate issue. It didn't mysteriously appear when they wanted to add on to the building. It was in place before the building was even considered, the expansion upon it, right? So if that being the case, again, is there a way we can work around it till he gets the opportunity to rectify this issue? Does that make sense?
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. To the Deputy Mayor, I think I'm understanding your question. At this point in time, staff has been trying to work on finding solutions that meet the engineering standards that are in place for the addition. And I think that's where we've come to a bit of a standstill in terms of the option that's available. The preferred approach is, as Mr. Giglio indicated, along the back of his property and through an easement that the town does not have at this point in time. So that would be time and a process to acquire that easement for the proposed drainage.
Councillor Drodge, Councillor Waters.
Through your worship, just for some clarification, did you not say that this building is completely closed in already, your addition?
It has a shell. It's not completely finished, but it has a shell.
So your foundations are in though and your walls are up?
The exterior.
Exterior?
Only, yes.
So then, and this was all, I'm assuming we provided this, we allowed this to happen, is that correct?
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. There were two conditional permits that were issued initially in October for a foundation permit for the addition, and then in November for structural steel.
Would that not be the only thing to direct and divert water or flood management would be the foundation? Like the building itself out of the ground wouldn't matter. So I'm wondering why we would let the foundation go in and still have an issue with the way the floodplain is in that area. I'm just having some issues. I'm trying to see how you could connect the two.
I see Director Lee smiling. She's so we were trying to work with Mr. Giglio and allow him to keep moving forward. Director Lee?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. And that's the understanding that I've gained, is that, because I obviously wasn't here when that was done, but we were trying to it was the direction of the town at the time. We were trying to support a business and allow them to move forward, understanding that we believed at that point in time that the site plan approval was imminent. And so they were provided the ability to start the foundation while we worked through the completion of the site plan process, which has taken longer.
Go ahead, Councillor Drodge.
So through your worship, so if the foundation's in, I'd have to tend to agree with Mr. Giglio that they are two separate issues, because he's already done the works that would affect groundwater, moving, changing direction, flow, stuff like that. And again, you're saying you did build it already on existing pavement. So I'm assuming that driveway never flooded prior to you building this building?
No, it has not.
So I guess just my comment, it does sound like you have an interesting case. I think it would be two separate incidences.
I think, our intention is to do what's right. And if the regulations have changed, we have to understand that things change over time. So we're not saying that we want to walk away from this greater issue of Innisfil Heights. We're just saying we'd like to decouple these two things. And this is the first, I wasn't aware that on the 25th you're going to be proposing something, but that would be an even greater opportunity to say right now that we can decouple these two things and resolve the balance. Because the other thing is there will be zero environmental impact if we do finish our, again, there's no impact. So this is now just a semantics, governance, technicality thing, which again, we're not absolving ourselves. We're just saying, let us move forward and continue to do lovely photo ops with our growth.
Councillor Waters?
I would think that staff are going to be coming forward with a plan to deal with this on a larger scale. And I kind of agree. I think history is working against this company in terms of that we didn't really have a proper drainage plan. We never required a planned subdivision with proper drainage on it. So it's unfortunately, they're in a situation where the past is catching up to what the new requirements are. And so I don't see an issue with decoupling, allowing the company, because they are a long-standing community business. They've brought hundreds of people to Innisfil in terms of, I take them at his word that they're not going to walk away from it. They truly want to work with us on this bigger plan. So I think we should allow them to go ahead. That's my personal opinion, with the building, get it up and operational, and together, in terms of Innisfil and the businesses, not only his business, but the other business there, come up with a more viable plan. If we want to attract other businesses to Innisfil, this is not what they want to hear, that they may run into. He said there's another piece of land there they may not be able to develop because of the existing drainage that's there. So I'm saying, and as Barry will know, is that I've had my own issues with drainage, and especially in my ward. So we see this all the time where, it's not one person's job, it's a community's job to deal with this. And I think we should just move forward and work together with the owner, with the agreement that, he's going to be part of the solution down the road, and let him get this business up and running. And because as he said, he's losing money on every day that goes by. So that's just my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor. I have one question, and then I'll see if there's a recommendation to put forward. Director Lee, the issue with the MTO and them providing the culvert under the highway, but are we able to require MTO to do anything with their drainage?
Through you, Mayor Dolan, we would have to follow up with MTO. There wasn't information that was provided from them in terms of the drainage with the Highway 400.
Thank you for that. Councillor Ices, did you have a
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I was going to put a recommendation forward. I think clerk has, do we have that one? And just in light of the discussion that we had in the presentation, I think it's fair to put a timeline on it. Or at least have an update. It sounds like there's a report coming that was more of a generic report, but maybe have a little bit of more specifics with this. So the only change I would make to this recommendation is point 2, that this be referred to staff to work with Tempo Flexible Packaging in finding a resolution and report progress. I would say on October 25th when the other report comes forward. So it's report progress by October 25th.
I'm going to go to Director Lee here because I'm cognizant of the time that in order to report anything on October 25th, the report would already have to be in. So it would have to go to the next.
Okay.
Am I right,
Got it.
Director?
Mayor Dolan, that's correct. I guess I was wondering if Councillor Ices was looking for, as part of the discussion on the Innisfil Heights broader report. The report is done and it's been submitted, so we can't add to that report, but are you looking for verbal comments from staff to come back when that discussion is happening on the Innisfil Heights report, I think is what I assumed.
Yes. I think that's appropriate with the discussion that we've had here tonight.
Thank you, Councillor. And do you have a seconder?
Councillor Saunders.
Councillor Saunders is the seconder. Discussion on the revised recommendation.
Thank you, Worship. Would Councillor Ices be interested in, and is it possible for us to ask that we decouple the two of them, but the resolution, the long-term resolution, be negotiated over time? Is that something that would?
Yeah, I'm agreeable to adding that as part of the question.
Director Lee?
Mayor Dolan, if I can just speak to the decoupling of the two issues. I think the challenge for staff is the provincial legislation and the town engineering standards require us to deal with stormwater as part of any development application. So dealing with the building permit, we can't decouple the drainage issues on the site because that is a requirement. If council is saying ignore the town engineering standards, then that sets a precedent for every other property. So that's the challenge staff is having in decoupling the drainage and stormwater associated with the development from the request.
Councillor Waters?
Can we not ask that we don't decouple it, but we say that the progress is going to happen after the building goes in? Is that possible or not?
Mayor Dolan, through to Councillor Waters, the development standards indicate that all development must demonstrate how they've addressed drainage in order to receive town approval. So we would be varying from those town standards by essentially saying we're going to give the approval and then determine how you're addressing it after the fact. The language that was on the screen, staff are prepared to try and think of other solutions that we haven't thought of at this point in time, and I do need to discuss with legal counsel some options in terms of the site plan agreement and the standards. So I'd like the opportunity to be able to do that further with legal counsel based on the original proposed language.
Thank you. Yes, it's the first time I've ever heard of a piece of land that nobody owns. So I'd like to learn more about that from legal for sure. Mr. Giglio?
So I can't stress enough the sense of urgency that I'm trying to come forward with. So I appreciate that you need time to do this, and maybe decoupling is not the total appropriate word. If we need to add some sort of language in a site plan that just puts some obligation on us, I think I'm open to that. Or just use the existing site plan that we already have open and not have to worry about creating a complete new site plan. But what are my next steps here? Because I'm not totally clear. I've asked for something in the next 15 days, and I don't know whom I'm following up with, who's going to follow up with me, or when we're going to. I don't have a definitive date on a calendar of when I should be asking for something or hearing something or expecting something. So can I just get some clarification on that, and I could leave everybody alone?
Absolutely, I'm happy to do that, Mr. Giglio. So all of us up here, well, except for maybe Councillor Waters, who has some drainage experience, none of us are engineers or stormwater experts. We do rely on town staff to provide us with that expertise. And I'm certain that Director Lee has heard this evening the wishes of council to resolve this issue that has been outstanding for a very, very long time. And we do want to work towards getting those jobs and getting those people in that building. But we do need to make sure that whatever decisions we make are informed decisions based on planning, legal, engineer, not 9 people who say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, let's do that. So can I ask that next steps would be Director Lee, who will be following up with Mr. Giglio and when?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. So I will be following up directly with Mr. Giglio once I've had an opportunity to talk to legal about some potential thoughts that I have at this point. I have to confirm when I can have that conversation, but I'd like to at least have a follow-up with you this week, and then we can see if there's a solution that works, and then we can move forward. So I just have to have that conversation with Mr. Parkin first.
Thank you. And the seconder, Kevin, was Councillor Saunders. Any other final questions or comments before we call the vote? Seeing none, really appreciate you being here tonight. I know that's not what you wanted. I know you wanted me to have a permit in my hand and hand it to you, and I'm sorry I can't do that, but you need to know that we all honestly and earnestly want to help you resolve this issue as soon as possible.
All right.
All those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you for coming out and visiting with us tonight, and thank you for leaving us with the information.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Good night. Thank you. So we have another delegation this evening, and we're very pleased to welcome Gail Hunt, President and Chief Executive Officer of Royal Victoria Hospital, along with Jason Teal, the first Vice Chair of the RVH Board of Directors. Welcome, Mr. Teal. I think this is your first time in the chambers with us. Welcome.
It is. Thank you, Mayor Dolan. Good evening, everybody. So good evening to all members of council. I am Jason Teal. I'm the first Vice Chair of the RVH Board of Directors. I'm joined today by several familiar faces, including right to my left, Gail Hunt, who's our President and CEO. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. Before I go further, I'd like you to kind of imagine with us for a moment. Imagine a future state-of-the-art regional healthcare facilities. One, right here in the heart of Innisfil, just across the road, that would be 8 times the size of the Rizzardo Health and Wellness Center. And another facility just north of here, which will double its current size to that equivalent of 11 Innisfil recreation complexes. Before I turn over to Gail, to help us understand why this infrastructure expansion is required to enable the care your residents need, I want to share another key aspect of this expansion plan. So my day job, we go on the next slide, I think. Oh, no, we're there, okay. My day job is a commercial lender, so I see major projects get financed, become reality, and impact the communities where they develop. So I know that RVH's major expansion will have enormous economic impacts for Innisfil and this region. From thousands of high-quality jobs to large contracts for vendors, the trades, and suppliers. In fact, we're working with Deloitte to quantify this economic impact and update our previous projections, which were largely pre-COVID. We look forward to sharing that economic impact assessment with you in the near future. So back to the reason for being, providing the health care you need close to home. With that, I'll pass it over to Gail.
A little bit shorter than Jason, so thank you, Jason. And good evening, Council, Mayor and Council. It's great to be here this evening. So as you know, Team RVH provides the full spectrum of healthcare services, from emergency to specialized regional programming to outpatient clinics with 500,000 patient visits annually and growing. Next slide. So Keith Hartley, pictured here, is one of our patients, and with his permission, I can share with you that he credits RVH for saving his life. In 2022, he received care for cancer and kidney concerns, as well as rehabilitation services. He puts it in this way: I wouldn't know what I would have done without RVH, and there are so many stories like Keith's. Next slide. But how do we continue to provide exceptional care with what you know as a tsunami of growth coming to Innisfil and the region? Since about 10% of RVH patients are from Innisfil today, and we're already at capacity, how are we going to meet the demands of the residents going forward from here? And as you can guess, it means thousands of more emergency room visits, cardiac procedures, inpatient admissions, and so much more. Next slide. This growth challenge is exacerbated by the fact that 45% of our region's residents have a chronic condition like cancer or diabetes, and 1 in 5 have multiple conditions of these. And add to that our aging population, which requires more care, and we start to get a good sense of the significant demands on our regional healthcare system today and in the foreseeable future. Next slide. And while technology is improving with disruptors like artificial intelligence and 3D printing, we really hope to be able to provide more care in the community and at home in the future. The acute care facilities need to grow to meet the critical patient demands. Next slide. So that's really why, since 2017, we have been working together with Innisfil, our regional community and partners, to advance our one system, two site master plan. We now have the land, we have the MZO, and we're completing the detailed functional programming now that will make sure this capital expansion is right-sized for the needs of our region's patients, incorporating leading standards of care and technology. So what we really need now is the approval from the Ministry of Health to proceed. Next slide. You're going to see there's a lot going on in this slide. Any of you familiar with your municipal ministry will know that anything government is going to be a little messy. So essentially, the Ministry of Health has a long-established process to ensure the hospitals are sized correctly and are built where they need to be, particularly given the enormous costs of these public institutions to design, build, operate, and maintain. The Ministry of Health's capital planning framework has really 3 main phases that you see up there: the early planning, detailed planning, and then construction. Each of these phases, of course, within it has 3 steps, so to mass the 9 steps within a 3-step process. And we're currently waiting for ministry approval for stage 1.2. We all want to get construction as quickly as possible so we can continue to provide the care Innisfilians need close to home. So one of the key milestones in order to advance through this technical review process is to demonstrate that the local share of funding will be there when it's needed. Next slide. And to sort of explain how that works, let's imagine, with a really, really strong imagination, that a simple hospital build costs $100. And unfortunately, even our first hospital didn't cost $100. It cost $1,000 in 1897. But it's going to make it easier to sort of break down the numbers and imagine these percentages. So although there are thousands of different types of costs that go into a hospital build, some of which are listed on the right-hand side of this slide, the 3 basic cost buckets are, of course, construction costs, which represent $75 of the total $100 costs, and equipment costs at $10, and of course, project costs like engineers, designers, et cetera, at about $15. So as you can imagine, the design standards for hospital, particularly post-pandemic, are rigorous and not inexpensive. So how would our $100 project be funded? Next slide. So at the most general level, the ministry pays most of the project costs, but a portion must come from local community. Although officially the breakdown is 90% ministry and 10% local community, there are small print that goes with that. There are costs that are not included in that original breakdown. So in practice, the actual split tends to be 70% ministry, 30% local. Things like furniture and equipment, space for physicians. You'll see some of the non-eligible costs listed there are not covered by the ministry. So where does the local share come from? In our example of a $100 hospital, $30 of that 100 must be raised locally. Next slide. So part of that local share case comes from philanthropy. You'll see there in our case, it is our Keep Life Wild campaign, which has raised over $30 million of its $100 million goal. And in fact, Innisfilians have actively and passionately engaged in the campaign, with actually 25% of our campaign donations coming from Innisfil, which is amazing, and we're really proud of that. Next slide. The other key contributors are, of course, municipalities from which the patients come from. In our case, that's primarily the town of Innisfil, the city of Barrie, the county of Simcoe, and the district of Muskoka. And of course, we welcome contributions from other municipalities as well, but many of the county and district's local municipality also have local hospitals that they have to support as well. So lastly, if we're short, RVH may be permitted by the ministry to take on some limited long-term debt to fund that local share. And as you see here in the news, the District of Muskoka is in the midst of determining its local share for 2 Muskoka-Algonquin healthcare community hospitals. A recent motion of its Health Services Committee proposed $77.3 million of support for a district population of 60,000. Each of Huntsville and Braceville's are also considering contributions, their own contributions of $10 million each as well. Next slide. However, our one system, 2-site model is considerably larger, as we are a regional center as well, than MAX. In 2021 dollars, our total project cost is estimated at $3.2 billion. The South Campus, which is phase 1 alone, is $700 million. Now that's a huge ask of province and donors and our municipalities, but folks like Keith Hartley and so many thousands others are depending on us to make this happen together. Next slide, please. So that's why we're really so thankful for the leadership and support we have had from Innisfil Council and administration. And we really look forward to continuing to work with council and your staff, as well as those other municipal councils and staff, to consider local share commitments that demonstrate to the province that we are ready for municipal approvals to support the healthcare our patients and our residents need close to home. So thank you for your time, and we would be pleased to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wood. We switched the order of the presentations, but because we thought the hospital one would be longer than the tempo flexible packaging one. Who knew?
If I get off with less questions than they did, I'm okay with that.
Questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks very much for the presentation, and it just puts a smile on my face every time I take a look at this project and think that I think I'll be old enough to use it. There was one thing that caught me in the slides, so I'd like to ask, and that is, it says it's local responsibility for cost escalation. Mm-hmm. What is that?
So normally what happens when you start a project, if you find things that were unexpected in the project, there's no guarantee that you'll get funded for those. A lot of times it's when you're doing, so the North Campus would be an addition. So there's more opportunity for some cost escalations when there, because you may have things that were errors in estimates or errors in, when you do any project, you find mold or asbestos or things like that. But also your responsibility is to quote, get quotes for your project and cost estimates. So there's no guarantee that you'll be covered for those things. There's a lot of escalations that happen during a project that you have to sit down with the ministry afterwards and have a discussion whether or not they're going to cover for it. Some things they will cover to say that was, nobody could have predicted that, so we'll cover that cost because it was done for a patient safety issue. Or if it was something they felt your engineers should have discovered during the time of the project being done, it's going to be up to the hospital to figure out how that gets paid for.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments? Councillor Saunders.
Thank you for your presentation. I think the $25 million that you guys have, the fundraising committee that's already raised, is absolutely amazing. The only problem I have is every time I see Al Gilchrist, I wonder how much he's going to hit me up for. But they are doing such an amazing job, and I hope they keep doing more and get more for you.
We are very lucky to have such a passionate group of supporters from Innisfil, and I know that our foundation has worked so hard. Our CEO of the foundation is here tonight, and I mean, this is going to happen in Innisfil, and it's going to be because the people are pushing so hard, and we really appreciate that because that's what makes the difference with the Ministry of Health, is to see that a community is committed and wants a project to happen. Otherwise, if it's just hospital staff pushing it, we don't carry a lot of weight in that regard. So it's really nice to have the hospital and the community behind it.
Thank you. I was remiss in not recognizing the lovely group of RVH cheerleaders that are here with us tonight. And thank you for all you do. You put 110% effort into Keep Life Wild. Other questions or comments? So I want to just say that I'm going to first make a statement and then ask you a question. So it's been an exciting time. It is an exciting time for us. Exciting when the Premier came up in I forget what year it was.
2021, I think.
2021, and with a $1.2 million planning grant and announced the MZO. It was very exciting. I will tell you also that at the Councillor Richardson, Zanella, and Constantine and I met with Minister Jones in August at the Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference. We had a very good conversation with her and talked up the hospital very much there. I wish I would have been armed a little bit more of that 30% versus 10%, because when I had another opportunity to speak to her, I told her that 10% was very difficult for a small community to raise, and she was adamant that communities must put in their local share. In fact, I think she said, "You've got to have skin in the game," was her comment to me. But to me, skin in the game at 10% was fine, but at 30% is a difficult challenge for us, but we will keep plodding along. So the next steps going forward, what happens from here? When do we get a number?
Right. A number from us asking for a number? Yeah. First off, thank you for your advocacy. We really appreciate that. I don't think it would have mattered if you knew the 30%, because they wouldn't. I don't think the ministry would acknowledge that that's the reality at the end of the day when you come down to it, because their formula is 90-10. They just don't acknowledge the ineligible items. So my apologies that we didn't add in the extra bump up there. So for us, we are working, as Jason mentioned, we're working on the economic impact statement, so we can sort of at the same time provide you with what the economic impact will be to the community. And as far as an ask goes, we're also working with administration here at Innisfil to be able to look about affordability and planning. We are running, we are talking to many groups as well. It's hard to predict right now, but if we look at, for instance, 10% of our visits come from Innisfil residents. If you look at 700 million would be the phase one of the build here in Innisfil. Like 10% to 30% of that, it goes anywhere from 70 million to I think 210 million or something like that. So I'm not trying to scare you. Because local share is made up of many things. It's made up of, it's made up of municipal contributions, of philanthropy, and at the end of the day, some debt servicing from the hospital as well. So it's looking at that sort of long-term contribution, which is hard today to think about. It's not money. We don't need the money tomorrow. We need the money built up over a period of time to be able to draw down on it as we build. So coming out now, and we hope to come out shortly to be able to make our formal ask. But doing that allows the town of Innisfil to build up reserves and resources towards that number, and also planning for the future as the population grows. So I provided you a wide range between 70 and 210 million, which of course I can imagine everybody will steer towards the lower end of that. But that will be why we provided as well some context around the District of Muskoka and how the support was there, just to provide some context to what we're looking at.
Thank you very much for that, Gail. And yes, it's a big number. But I think back, and I don't have the stats in front of me tonight, but I think back to the council who had a big sticker to purchase a farm on Innisfil Beach Road next to the lake, and how much it would have hurt to have to pay for that at that time. Mm-hmm. And there's not been a council since then that hasn't thanked that group for making that investment in the future. Yeah. And that's what we have to keep thinking, is that this is an investment in the future. You said the first Royal Victoria Hospital cost $1,000. Mm-hmm. And sometime in the future, Innisfil residents will think what we paid for the South Campus is a very small amount. So we just have to keep it into perspective and keep moving forward and positively, and keep advocating for health care closer to home. So thank you both for being here. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. The work that you guys are doing and what you're building, the infrastructure, this is going to be incredible, because I know my grandchildren one day will be visiting the hospital, and that makes me smile. I believe there was a motion, a recommendation that you wanted to bring forth, Mayor Dolan. I will do it on your behalf, yes. The seconder will be Councillor Ices.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on the recommendation, on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? I think that's unanimous. It's a bit vague, but certainly, as I said to Mr. Giglio, we're not the experts here. We have to go to our chief financial officer and our CAO, and we don't want to promise something that we can't deliver. So we'll sharpen our pencils and see what we can do from our end. And I know you'll be talking to staff regularly. And yes. So we really appreciate all of you coming out tonight. It's wonderful to show the support from all over Innisfil for this very special project.
Thank you so much. All I can say is I look forward to working with the staff, and we really look forward to a groundbreaking where we're opening a hospital one day here in Innisfil. That'll be the best day.
It will be. Much. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Council. So we'll move on to item number 7. Any municipal associations that you have been appointed to by Council that you'd like to report out on this evening? Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With permission from Kim Kramer, who's worked her absolute crazy fingers off, with the support of the Simcoe County School Board, the IAAC is going to our new format, which will be, instead of us going to each school during the school year, we're going to be going to the YMCA and doing 4 or 5 schools a day for 3 days throughout the year. So instead of us going there, they'll come to see us, which will make it like a school trip. And again, we've had the support of the Simcoe County School Board with this, which is really great because it's going on their curriculum. And the last in school that we're doing this year will be at Sunnybury, October 19th at 9 a.m. if anybody wants to go. And if anybody has any questions about the IAC and the new format, they can reach out to Kim Creamer and she'll answer any questions.
Or the chair. Thank you so much. I did manage to get to my first Breaking Down Barriers, and I was just so impressed, all the work and the volunteer hours put in by your committee. So please pass on my thanks, Mr. Chair. Anyone else have any? Councillor Ices?
Thank you, Worship. A couple of weeks ago, I got to do a tour of the South Innisfil Creek Drain with the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority and a lot of their partners, and it was really eye-opening to see the great work that we've done with our partners to rehabilitate that drain. I think the catchphrase that Burnside is using for this project is drains done differently. And you could really see that, how they would use the material in the area, the trees and the different things right around the creek to shore up the creek so that it can withstand erosion and especially in the time we're in now with more weather issues and climate change issues, that we can future-proof this drain while we're fixing it up. So that was a very positive day. I also wanted to inform council that the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority is actively working on its budget for the next year. And I believe there was an email that we got with some proposals for the future that the board is looking into for the budget. So that's my report for NVCA.
Thank you so much. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. At County yesterday, we acknowledged on October 20th, we're going to be sharing a child care worker and early childhood education appreciation day that they've done it every year now for quite some time. Those who work with our children when they're young, have a great impact on them. We received a presentation regarding the Homeless Service Winter Response and Deployment of Public Shelter Dashboard. Even though it's a mouthful, it gives a day-by-day basis updates on the homeless shelters. And with winter fast approaching, they're looking to see what they can do to keep people off the street, find out what the root cause is, what they can do, how much various factors play into putting the people there in the first place, and how we can stop it. A little more locally, recently with the Heritage Committee, as property seems to be a theme tonight, we had a meeting this past week where we had an update on the Kirkpatrick store on Killarney Beach Road. It was a very heated debate, but we're still working at finding an amicable solution that works for everybody. So we're going to be waiting for some town information at the next meeting to help resolve this issue in a proper fashion. Thank you.
Anyone else? No committees? So I will tell you that I did attend 3 AMO meetings over the last couple of weeks. So the 28th and 29th of September was the board and executive meetings. The first was to do a breakdown of the conference. It was the most successful conference that AMO's ever had, with the most participation. We also worked on the housing affordability task list that I'm required to have in by the end of this week. So it was great to get input from other municipalities. We worked on a municipal fiscal sustainability plan, which you'll hear a lot more about early in Q1, about the gap that is left from what we receive from the government and what we need to build the infrastructure that we need. And finally, there was a lot of municipalities, mostly larger ones, but some small and medium, dealing with encampments and sharing ideas on how each municipality was dealing with these issues. On October the 5th, we met again, this time with the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the new minister, Minister Paul Calandra, and his parliamentary assistant, Matt Ray. It was a good first meeting, and we'll be meeting again in about 3 weeks, so keeping the lines of communications open there. South Simcoe Police this morning had their budget deliberations, and we just went kind of through like a workshop this morning, line by line, and that will be coming to council in the coming weeks. And then, and that was it for me, other than the county, which has already been reported on. So that is it for item number 7. So item number 8 is our consent list. So we'll go through the list, and please feel free to pull anything that you wish to discuss in the committee of the whole. A1, the special council meeting minutes dated September 19th. A2, the special council meeting minutes dated September 20th. A3, the council meeting minutes dated September 27th. B1, the ward boundary review ad hoc committee meeting. B2, the special Innisfil Heritage Advisory Committee meeting. C1, the 2024 council meeting schedule. I just had a comment on that one, that on the little calendar in there, it shows all of the conference schedules, and there was the conference schedule of the OSAM meeting is May 1st to the 3rd. And just to add that, thank you so much. C2, the repeal yield sign bylaw. C3, the Town of Innisfil's multi-year accessibility plan. I just want to say absolutely great work on that report. Well done. C4, the school zones bylaw. D1, the home occupation zoning bylaw amendment update. Deputy.
Thank you, Worship. I'd just like to make a comment that I really support this, and I really appreciate the work that staff has put in regarding this. As we know, with our growth, finding any commercial space, office space, or business space overall has become increasingly difficult for anybody, and working hand in hand with DMZ and our local community by allowing this, we're finding more people work, we're building the relationships with the town that we need, and it actually gives people a hand up when they're starting, which is a very, very difficult thing to do, as any business owner will say. So please continue this. I really support it. I really think it's incredible work. Thank you.
Thank you. Bylaws, we have no bylaws to consider this evening and no correspondence for action. Items under correspondence for information, G1, the Innisfil Library Board meeting minutes. G2, the County of Simcoe meeting minutes. G3, I just want to take a moment and give a big shout out to our municipal law enforcement, both Kyle Jones and Mitch Harris and Adam Kinsella, all three of them, for receiving their Ontario Municipal Law Enforcement Long Service Medal. That was for Adam Kinsella. And the Municipal Law Enforcement Officer Certification for Mitch and Kyle. And I would ask if we could please pass on congratulations for that achievement. Thank you very much. And G4, proclamation for World Polio Day. Seeing none, then we don't need a consent list. Because we have no items pulled. So we need a mover and a seconder, please, to adopt all of the items on council tonight. Councillor Zanella, Councillor Constantine, all those in favor? That is carried. And a rise recommendation. Oh, sorry, consideration to adopt. That'd be moved by Councillor Waters. Sorry, I've done something wrong. Oh, okay. Oh, I noticed noticed which motion has been previously given, and we skipped right over that. Councillor Saunders, do you have a seconder?
Through you, Mayor. Deputy Mayor Fowler.
Do you want to comment at all on this?
What we were doing with this, we're pulling it not just for Friday Harbor, but for the town as a whole, for the music festivals, and for fireworks, and just for noise admissions, so we can control it a little bit. For fireworks, it's not for mom who needs a little permit for their son's birthday or something like that. It's all for the corporations and the businesses and stuff like that in the whole, the federal stuff and the provincial stuff. So not the next door neighbor that we don't want to do it. So we want to be just a little bit of control of who gets the noise exemption permits, and for along the ways for fireworks and for music and stuff like that. So we're going to pull it back from the staff. The staff used to just give them, they would do it without us doing it. So now it's going to come back to us to vote. So if Friday Harbor comes back to us with, say, 16 days that they want to shoot fireworks off, we will actually get a say, and the community will actually get a say in this as well. So we may not give them the 16 days, we may give them whatever we see fit. So that's what this one is for.
Thank you. So basically, we're looking for a report back to council on this. Any questions or comments on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? That is carried. And that moves us to announcements. Councillor Ices, any announcements?
Thank you, Worship. I have a few here. I was able to attend St. James United Church's 171st birthday service at the end of September. That's quite an accomplishment to be part of the community that long. I also wanted to inform everybody that every Thursday, the Silver Club meets at the IRC, and they have special guests. They do cards, crafting, and also that on October the 15th, there's an Innisfil fashion market in Stroud. So that'll be this Sunday, I believe. I also wanted to offer condolences to the Boyd family. Walter Boyd has passed away in his 94th year, October 4th. He was a lifetime resident of Innisfil, known for his love of farming, ice fishing, and he also successfully had a long-term fight with polio, so he will be definitely missed. The funeral home visitation is on October 15th from 2 to 4 and 7 to 9. And the funeral is on Monday, October 16th at 2 p.m. at the Innisfil Funeral Home in Stroud.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. I believe Mr. Boyd used to also drive a snowplow for the town in the winters when he wasn't farming. So an old employee. Councillor Constantine.
Thank you, Your Worship. And on the 13th of October, there will be an Oktoberfest at Legion. And on the 15th, there will also be youth dart from 12 to 3, and the age is 13 and up. and at Big Cedar Dart League every Friday night at 7 p.m. So these are the announcements I have.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you. So on Friday at Moon Cafe, we have local teenage Anna Goldsmith will be there singing. On Saturday night at the Innisfil Library Lakeshore Branch, we have Words Matter. That'll be from 6 till 9 p.m. And then coming up at the end of the month, we have Spooktacular that'll be running along Innisfil Beach Road. Big thanks to Johnny Berger for organizing that, as well as on the 29th as well. Beach Road Market will have their final market there at the library. And then from the 23rd to the 28th is the 4th annual Halloween house decorating contest. So make sure you get out and check out all the houses.
Thank you. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. On the 20th, there's a fun bar night at Lions Hall at 7 p.m. There's darts, karaoke, sports, and at the bottom one, I'm having a hard time reading. I think it says cheap drinks. On the 27th, the kids' dance party at Alcona Glen, $10 from 6:45 to 9:45 for grades 3 to grade 7. And then on the 27th as well is Euchre Night at the Lions Hall in support of breast cancer awareness. Wear pink and get a ticket.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Zanella.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So if you're looking for some fun Latin fitness, Saturdays from 9:30 till 10:30, the Lakeside Dance is having salsa, cha-cha, bachata, merengue, and rumba. And it's $20 each, or 4 for $70. And give them a call, because that has to be done before the end of the year. And starting November 2nd, they have the 5-week line dance course that I mentioned last time. I believe there's 6 spots left for that. And on November 17th, the 3rd annual holiday fair. All at Lakeside.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Saunders.
On September 14th, the Sandy Cove Arts and Crafts Show will be at the Wheel. I believe it's from 9 until 3. And Friday Harbor has going out wild with trick-or-treating this year. They have, on the 28th, they have trick-or-treating along the promenade from 11 until 6 p.m. There's a bunch of stuff going on there with free admission. And then they also have the Hallow Walk, which is through the nature preserve, and that's on every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can book your tickets online through the weekend, and then the weekend of Halloween, they have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday as well. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Drodge.
Thank you, Your Worship. October 14th, Candy's Fall Festival at the Guildford Hall, 11 to 4. Again, on October 14th is the Cookstown Fire Station free pancake breakfast from 8 to 11:30. October 22nd is the 9th annual soup contest at the Guildford Hall. I'll be there, going to win. October 25th is the Guildford United Church Chicken Dinner. October 28th is the euchre tournament at the Guildford Hall. October 29th is the St. John's Church Cookstown celebrating its 170th year anniversary at 11:15 a.m. And all the way to until October 31st, EFT Farms Pumpkin Patch is open daily 9 to 4. And I missed a couple here. October 28th is Bonanza in Cookstown. And South Simcoe Theatre is putting on a show, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, from November 3rd to the 19th, Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 2 p.m.
Thank you, Councillor. But you're not going to win the soup contest, I'm just saying. Deputy Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. Recently, I was able to present a certificate of recognition to Patty McLaughlin at the Innisfil Idea Lab and Library regarding her years of song circles and the way she inspired many people in the community to dust off whatever instrument it could be. We even had, what's it called? The accordion, thank you. Accordion show up and even play, which is really incredible because it doesn't matter if you're good or not, she welcomes you and she inspires many, many people. The mayor and I were at the bake sale at St. Peter's Anglican Church this past September 30th, and there was a lot of goods. I believe you got the last pumpkin pie, or they put one aside for you. We went to, many members of council hit the back alley cruisers down at, it's the pre-snow car show down on the steam show grounds, where, again, I'm glad that it's getting so much use this year, where it was incredible, the amount of cars they have, like all the way back to 1914 were showing up. Like, it's phenomenal. Many members of council went to the mayor's prayer breakfast at Innisfil Community Church back on October 3rd. We had a lot of the local churches get together to organize this event, and it was really well organized. It was really, really fun to be at. Tomorrow night, the Cookstown Curling Club has an open house at 7 p.m. They're going to be welcoming anybody. They're trying to get the curling enthusiasts back out, and as Councillor Ices will say, that it's a sport that's truly Canadian, although I have left a lot of my flexibility and skill back in high school, and that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to especially thank Pastor Courtney for resurrecting the prayer breakfast. It's the first one since 2019, and it was lovely to be back. I also wanted to thank very much the market manager and the board at the Innisfil Farmers Market for another very successful season. It's unfortunate that it seemed to rain every Thursday, but they still said they had record crowds this year, so I was very, very glad to see that. And then last evening, Councillor Constantine and Councillor Zanella and I went to the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority Awards, and I'm very pleased to say that we received the Healthy Waters Award, and congratulations to Jessica Jenkins and Alex Papados, if I said that correctly. So the project that won was the Park Road project through Innisfil Beach Park. And it was wonderful to be there to celebrate such a great achievement and to be recognized that way. So congratulations, Jessica, and please pass on my congratulations to Alex. It was a difficult couple of weeks. We lost very many pillars of our community. So Walter Boyd, for sure, and he suffered with polio his whole life, and we just passed the proclamation for polio. So that was very appropriate. Also, Keith Kell. So Keith Kell, in his 92nd year, a farmer who lived on Highway 89 near Funnels Corners, actually was born in the house that he lived in his entire life. And he and his wife Helen, and I attended the service last Friday. It was very well attended, and he's such a well-respected man in the community, and quite a loss for all of us. And then I was very saddened to hear of the passing of a former town of Innisfil councillor colleague, Roy Bridge. Roy was came to Innisfil in 1963 as a police officer, and then he became working for the township as bylaw enforcement officer until his retirement in 1993 as the director of municipal law. So he ran for council in 1994, the same year as I did. He served 3 terms, so 9 years, because the terms were 3 years at that time. But that wasn't enough for him, so he also was president of the Big Cedar Golf and Country Club. He was president of the Stroud Curling Club. He was the president of the Municipal Law Enforcement Officers of Ontario, which was the letters that we received earlier today from that organization for our current bylaw officers. He was chair of the Committee of Adjustment here in Innisfil. He also served as our representative on the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority for 12 years and 6 years as the chair of the Conservation Authority. So he also celebrated 50 years as a member of the Masonic Lodge and 30 years as a member of the Innisfil Legion. So he left his fingerprint on every part of our town. I was lucky enough to actually see him and chat and socialize with him 2 weeks ago. So I was very deeply saddened by this and expressed our condolences to his wife, Vicki, and the entire family. There will be a celebration of his life at the Wheel in Sandy Cove on Sunday, October the 29th at 1 o'clock. And that's it for me. So if there's no other announcements, I would ask for a confirming bylaw motion, and that would be moved by Councillor Ices and seconded by Councillor Constantine. All those in favor? And as we move to adjourn at 8:35 p.m., Councillor Drodge and Councillor Richardson, all those in favor? That is carried. Thanks, everybody, very much, and have a lovely rest of the evening.